This week on Jerusalem Dateline, the feud between Congresswoman Omar and Tlaib and U.S. President Trump continues.
Where has the Democratic Party gone? Where have they gone where they're defending these two people over the state of Israel?
Plus, the BDS movement, what it is and why it's so dangerous to the state of Israel. And Save a Child's Heart celebrates more than 5,000 life-saving surgeries. All this and more this week on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Israeli President Reuven Rivlin expressed shock following a terror attack on a family swimming in a natural spring near a West Bank community. 17-year-old Rina Schnurb died in the attack, while her father Rabbi Eitan and brother Devere were seriously injured and fighting for their lives. Rivlin tweeted, "My prayers are with the family and for the recovery of those injured. This was a despicable attack against innocent people going about their daily lives in peace." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu added his condolences, promised to continue to strengthen settlement and deepen Jewish roots in the land and apprehend the terrorists. Outside of Israel, there's escalating tension between the Iranian regime and the United States of America, and much of it revolves around key waterways in the Mediterranean Sea and the Persian Gulf. Here's Gabe LaMonica with more.
The Iranian supertanker seen here is central to the latest diplomatic dispute between the U.S. and Iran. Departing Gibraltar this week after a month-long detention by the U.K., the U.S. is authorizing the seizure of the supertanker for breaching U.S. sanctions. After its release, the ship changed its name and is now believed to be leased by the Iran Revolutionary Guard, which the U.S. labels a terror group. At issue, whether the ship, which is believed to be carrying some 2.1 million barrels of crude oil, makes it to Syria. Now in international waters, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo issued a warning Tuesday to any country assisting the ship.
We want to deny them the resources to continue their horrific terror campaign all across the world. That's the rationale for preventing a ship that's loaded with crude oil arriving in Syria.
The president insisted Wednesday that U.S. sanctions against Iran are working.
Iran is a very far weakened nation right now.
Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif told NBC News negotiations are still on the table.
I'm not ruling out talks. What I'm saying is that talks should be based on mutual respect.
With tensions high, these U.S. Navy Special Forces paratroopers dropping from the sky trained for the recovery of a hijacked ship. The joint U.S.-Israeli military exercise last week comes as the U.S. is planning a mission to protect shipping in the Strait of Hormuz.
Most of the violence, terror, and chaos engulfing the region leads back to one place, to Tehran.
Speaking at the UN, Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon said Iran was the greatest threat to peace and security in the region.
Behind closed doors, many of the ambassadors and leaders freely admit this fact.
Gabe LaMonica, CBN News, Washington.
President Trump caused a firestorm of controversy when he criticized Jews who support the Democratic Party, accusing them of disloyalty to Israel. Was it, as some alleged, anti-Semitism, or was it a point that needed to be made? Dale Hurd has more.
It all started with this comment.
In my opinion, you vote for a Democrat, you're being very disloyal to Jewish people, and you're being very disloyal to Israel. And only weak people would say anything other than that.
And that outraged some American Jewish leaders.
I will be exactly clear on what that was: anti-Semitism. The charge of disloyalty or dual loyalty has been used against Jews for thousands of years.
75 to 80% of the American Jewish community regularly vote for the Democratic Party and oppose Trump, and calling the vast majority of that community disloyal and unintelligent is a disgraceful smear.
But the president doubled down.
Isn't that anti-Semitic?
No. It's only in your head. It's only anti-Semitic in your head.
President Trump has raised a strange contradiction. Why do so many Jews still support the left when it has largely turned against Israel? And why are so many American Jews still Democrats when some allege the party has been infected with anti-Semitism? This store owner in Jerusalem says Trump is right, 1,000,000%. The Democrats are not loyal. They were always against us, against the people, against the country, against Israel. They brought us Clinton and Obama. And what did Obama do? Only trouble. And this Israeli says, if Trump said it, in my opinion, I agree with him 100%. This week, Trump was dubbed the King of Israel on social media because he has supported Israel more than any other American president. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish, so it's an awfully long stretch for liberals or even Jewish leaders to say that Trump is anti-Semitic.
I think they enjoy this because they feel that it distracts from them defending Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. The truth is, the president stands up for American Jews. He stands up for Jews around the world. He's been a great friend to our community and to Israel.
The Jerusalem Post took American Jewish Democrats to task, saying in a commentary, much of the hostility to Israel within the Democratic Party can be attributed to the passiveness of non-Orthodox American Jews. Many of these consider support for social radicalism to be a far higher priority than support for Israel.
Up next, hear from one of Israel's most influential voices on social media about the current controversy. Even before the controversy over Trump's statement about Jewish support for Israel, Israel faced a firestorm of criticism for barring Congresswomen Omar and Tlaib from Israel because of their support for the BDS movement. Israel did allow Tlaib to enter on humanitarian grounds to visit her grandmother, but she refused. We talk more about that situation with international human rights lawyer Arsen Ostrowski. He's the executive director of the Israeli Jewish Congress and listed as one of the 25 most influential Jews on Twitter, with almost 50,000 followers.
Two probably prominent advocates of the BDS movement, Congresswoman Tlaib and Omar, were just barred from Israel a few days ago. What's your perspective on that?
Israel is an open, vibrant, strong democracy. We let people in from all backgrounds, faiths, religions, and the whole cross spectrum of opinions. But every democracy has its limits, and Israel is not unique in that sense. When it became known what the itinerary of these two members of Congress was, the fact that this was not about learning, this was not about seeing the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This was no more than a pure PR propaganda trip for these two members of Congress who were leading, not just passive bystanders, they're leading the boycott movement in Congress. Just a few weeks ago, actually, both members of Congress attempted to pass a resolution, a pro-BDS resolution, which, by the way, was overwhelmingly rejected. But amongst other things, this resolution said it compared the Jewish state to Nazi Germany. Israel initially denied the request for the members of Congress to come in. They, on humanitarian grounds, they allowed Rashida Tlaib to come to visit her grandmother, which was an incredible gesture, and she still said no. Still said no. What does that say? Does that say that she hates the state of Israel more than she loves her very own grandmother? It's very sad. It's incredibly sad. Israel was put in a very, very difficult situation, but I'm very understanding of the circumstances for why they acted as any democracy would have acted.
And yet this battle goes on. Now they're trying to delegitimize the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., the U.S. ambassador to Israel. So do you see this continuing?
For a while longer at least. It's interesting that they're trying to pass motions condemning not just the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., but also the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. And it's interesting, I wish they were as passionate and as forceful to condemn these very congresswomen for their anti-Semitism and their racism and their assault and hostility against the Jewish state and the Jewish people. So I think this will continue for some time longer, hopefully not much longer, because we have an election here, we have a peace plan that's coming out through the US administration. We have much, much bigger issues to deal with than these two members of Congress.
What is the BDS movement, and why do you think it's so dangerous to the state of Israel?
The very leadership of the BDS movement, people like Omar Barghouti, they're very loud and clear, they're very explicit. They say that we don't believe in a two-state solution. We believe in one state, Palestine. So the very essence, when you get down to the root of this movement, it's a movement to essentially to destroy the very Jewish state. It's a movement that speaks of human rights and justice, but is rooted in injustice and anti-Semitism. It talks about Palestinian rights, but it doesn't care about the Palestinians because they're the ones that suffer if there was a, so to speak, successful attempt to boycott. The state of Israel will be fine. We are strong. Our economy is strong. Tourism is strong. Diplomatically, we're strong. But it's an attempt to, as I said at the beginning, to delegitimize our very nature, to demonize the Jewish state. And at the end of the day, peace will come when we work together. So the people that want to boycott Israel, don't put bridges, don't try and boycott us, work with us, work for peace, bring people together, don't tear them apart.
Coming up, more on BDS, the roots behind this movement and its agenda. It's one of the most powerful anti-Israel movements in the world today, the BDS movement. That stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. It's very well funded, and it's spreading across college campuses in the U.S. Again, here's Dale Hurd with that story.
BDS activists will tell you they're only defending the rights of Palestinians. But when they chant from the river to the sea, they're calling for the complete destruction of Israel.
Our movement, the BDS movement, the Palestine Solidarity Movement, is finally starting to reframe the conversation, and that's why they're so afraid.
The BDS movement is growing and has become a force on more and more college campuses. It is aimed at only one nation, the only democracy in the Middle East.
No other country, just Israel.
Richard Millett tracks the BDS movement through his website.
They won't be calling for boycotts of America, who they don't agree with, or British government policy that they don't agree with, before we get into China, Russia, Syria, Saudi Arabia. There is no boycott, Dale. So you answer why.
The answer to that question can be found in the answer to another important question. Who founded the BDS movement? BDS leaders say the movement was launched in 2005 by the Palestinian Civil Society, but the evidence shows that is not true. Watch this video of BDS leaders discussing the origin of the movement at a conference in May of this year. Ilan Pape is director of the European Center for Palestinian Studies at the University of Exeter in England. He's considered a leading intellectual in the BDS movement. Here, Pape admits that the Palestinians did not create the BDS movement.
We're also active in it.
Well, the Palestinians launched the BDS in 2005 and 2004.
Yes, that's not really, but yes, okay. For historical records, yes. Okay.
That's important.
It's not true, but it's important.
It is important, because if the Palestinians did not begin the BDS movement, then the question, of course, is, who did? BDS expert Professor Gerald Steinberg in Jerusalem says BDS is a creation of European socialists and Muslim nations who oppose Israel, led by the 57-nation Organization of the Islamic Conference, the largest voting bloc at the United Nations.
So they get together with the radical left, started with the Soviet Union, certainly filters over to the Trotskyites and the Labour Party in the UK, and many other radical allies. And the fact that this is in many ways a European radical political movement makes it even less legitimate.
There have been boycotts of Israel since before the creation of the State of Israel. Some even trace the boycotts back to Nazi Germany in 1933. But the modern BDS movement took shape at the 2001 UN Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa, an event so rife with blatant anti-Semitism that the U.S. and Israeli delegations walked out. Another key question is who funds BDS? Steinberg says the movement gets hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Some of its funding is difficult to track. But if you live in a Western nation, there's a good chance you help fund it through your tax dollars, and perhaps even your tithe. The BDS movement gets most of its funding from the European Union, European national governments, and even the U.S. government. who give money to NGOs or non-governmental organizations that claim to fight for human rights, but who also oppose the State of Israel. Some Christian charities also give money to BDS. The webpage for Christian Aid makes it look like it only fights poverty. Drill down on their website and you'll find they also support BDS, as does the Presbyterian Church USA. And while the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement has been in one respect a failure, it has accomplished very little in the policy arena, it has succeeded in another area, by spreading anti-Semitism across college campuses. Ronnie Fraser, founding director of the Academic Friends of Israel, warns the next generation of leaders is being brainwashed, that Israel is the worst nation on earth.
Students are being fed a diet of Israel is a racist state, Israel is a Zionist state, Israel equals the Nazis.
We support the Intifada!
With massive funding behind it, BDS is turning people against Israel and creating a generation of leaders who may someday try to carry out what some have said is the real goal of the BDS movement: the elimination of the State of Israel.
Up next, Save a Child's Heart, something you might not know, how the Jewish state is healing hearts and lives throughout the Middle East and the world. Recently, the Israeli organization Save a Child's Heart celebrated its 5,000th surgery to repair heart defects. These life-saving surgeries have saved thousands of children's lives and many times changed the heart and minds of those who might have once seen Israel as their enemy. For example, here's a story we did about a team who went to Tanzania, and CBN's Middle East correspondent, Julie Stahl, was there.
Dar es Salaam is the largest city in the East African country of Tanzania. This is the Cardiac Institute at the Muhimbili Hospital in Dar es Salaam. Tanzania has 50 million people, yet it's the only place in the entire country that performs heart surgeries. Last year, the Jakaya Kikwete Cardiac Institute saw 25,000 patients and performed 270 surgeries. That's not nearly enough. Help is needed, and the Israeli organization Save a Child's Heart is answering the call by partnering with the Muhimbili Hospital.
For us, just bringing children to Israel, it's nice, it's important, but it's not as good as treating them here at home.
Cardiologist Dr. Sagi Asa is one of 35 doctors and other staff who brought their talent and care to Dar es Salaam for a week-long mission.
For the healing process of a child, it is as important as the surgery itself. To be in your environment, treated by your physicians, speaking your language.
They performed 12 surgeries, 21 other procedures, and screened 125 children for heart issues. That number included 7-month-old Whitney. She needed surgery to separate the blood vessels to her heart. CBN News received a rare opportunity to document the surgery performed by the team of Israeli and Tanzanian doctors.
And if not treated at the first year of life, that might be irreversible. And this patient would grow up and die miserably at the age of about 20 or so.
Whitney's mom, Lydia Ehilanai, said she knew her daughter's case was uncommon.
I was very scared. Then I asked, have you ever did an operation like that to the other kids apart from this? They said no. But at Israel, we used to do it.
But the work of Save a Child's Heart doesn't stop there.
It's not the volume which counts here, it's that capacity building. And that's why you see the operations are complicated, but it's the locals who are doing with the supervision from the Israel team.
Professor Mohammed Janabi, director of the Cardiac Institute, knows it's an uphill task.
Because these operations, by our own, nobody could have tried to touch those kids.
Having him coming here, and for the first time, we did it together here. So that, well, I'm hoping that the next case I'll be able to do it by myself.
Dr. Godwin Godfrey trained in Israel for 5 years. That helped prepare him for a busy schedule when he returned to Tanzania.
I'm the only one who specializes in pediatric cardiac surgery department, but I have some help from other cardiac surgeons who specialize like in adults and vascular.
head surgeon of Save a Child's Heart, Dr. Lior Sasson, mentored Godfrey.
I'm very proud because now he assisted me, but in many other cases he did it by himself.
What we're looking at is the fruits and the results of a long training program in Israel, where Israeli doctors have been training their colleagues from Tanzania.
Missions like this, he said, bring the Tanzanian team closer to becoming independent.
Until a year ago, Tanzanian children in need of heart surgery could not be treated inland. The only opportunities were through surgery either in India or in Israel.
This partnership is also giving both Israel and Tanzania an opportunity to take on negative perceptions. Randy Weiss recruits volunteers and spends a lot of time keeping the children happy. She hopes the good work done here and other places will help get the word out, not only about this organization, but Israel as well.
There's so much negativity associated with Israel, and especially any kind of news that comes out of Israel, and people tend to ignore all these wonderful things.
Missions like these can help tip the scales.
I can guarantee you that their image of Israel changed after their child or their children received surgery.
Such was the case for this Muslim dad.
I love Israel because he rescued my son's life. Give me 5. Yes, he's so good.
And that says it all.
Well, Save a Child's Heart is one way Israel continues to be a light to the nations. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.